Brandi Pants spent years going through storage units that no one had used in years. She bought an empty locker for $2,800 in 2023 when no one else was interested. The door was locked with rust. It smelled awful. Even Jared would have turned around and left, but she stayed because of something. Everything changed when she looked inside. There were bank records, court papers, and a collection that was so rare that the appraisers had to bring in armed guards. Even leaders at AE were shocked by the total value. Brandi had to make a choice, though, that still bothers her. Her birthday is May 16, 1980, and she was born in Harris County, Texas. Growing up there wasn't easy, and things at home were even worse. She was abused by her brothers from a very young age. This wasn't some friendly fighting. It happened all the time and was aggressive and scary. After some time, Brandi said, "My brothers used to beat me up all the time. Now I don't take crap from anyone because I learned how to fight back." In that kind of setting, you either broke down or got stronger. Brandi picked the second one. Being tough would protect her in life and give her an edge in business later on. She looked brave, but she wasn't really that brave. Brandi was shy, quiet, and hadn't always known who she was. She didn't like being around people. She wasn't sure how to be the loud, friendly kid. She looked people in what she called dirty ways instead. It wasn't really meant to scare them. It was only to keep herself safe. They might leave her alone if she seemed angry or cold. She couldn't forget that look. People who watched Storage Wars years later would still remember that look. She laughed about it and said that her sleeping face was never about how she felt. This was how she kept other people from seeing how scared she really was. Her life wasn't just a mess, it hurt a lot. Home wasn't warm or safe. Because she felt that way, she had to grow up quickly. She stopped being so open. She didn't wait for someone to save her. She put up a wall and had no one to depend on but herself. After living on edge for years, I had a strong ability to read people, figure out when someone was lying, sense trouble before it happened. It helped her stay alive, and then it helped her win. In storage sales, where you had to decide quickly and go with your gut, she was very strong. She didn't read a book and learn those skills. She learned them by making it through childhood. When her family moved to California, things started to change in her life. It was a surprise when they moved, a new place and people, but also a chance to leave some of the pain behind. She started over in California. She met Jared Schultz in the end. They got along well and became more than just romantically involved. They started to work together and got into the business of storage sales. It was a tough job. You had to be able to hold your ground and think quickly. It was made for Brandi. She wasn't meant to be that way. Her past had taught her how to deal with chaos. She didn't flinch when things got tough. When things got bad, she didn't give up. She lent into the chaos and used it to her advantage. Before the cameras found her, Brandi had already built up a strong work ethic. She had no choice. She learned to be independent early on because she didn't have much money or mental support. She did odd jobs and housework on her own and never asked someone else to fix things. She didn't change her mind about that. Before they got together, Brandi Passante and Jared Schultz worked together at a carpet cleaning business in Tustin, California in 1999. Jared was in charge of sales. Brandi was the new worker. Their jobs weren't exciting, and they didn't feel a spark between them at first. Technically, Jared was her boss, and relationships at work weren't exactly encouraged. Someone who knew both of them left notes on Jared's truck at one point, telling him to be nicer to her. He knew he was sometimes rough around the edges. Brandi didn't like him right away either. She put it this way: he wore me down. He was persistent. The carpet spots and chemical fumes made an odd match, but it worked. That quiet start would lead to one of the most famous pairs on reality TV. They wouldn't become famous for a long time, but they got their start in the strangest place. It turned out that the time they spent cleaning carpets was more useful than anyone thought. Dealing with dirt, cleaning up other people's messes, and going through their old stuff taught them something useful: how to find value in things other people threw away. It helped them when they went into the world of storage sales after that. When Jared's aunt, who ran a public storage facility, told them to check out a nearby auction, they did. They were not cold when they came in. They knew how to find secret value after years of going through trash. They were better than people who were afraid to get their hands dirty because they weren't afraid of it. A lot of people saw a pile of trash. Brandi and Jared saw a puzzle they could solve and a chance to make money. They did something risky before they were famous on TV. They opened a thrift store in Orange, California, in February 2010, called Now and Then. It was easy for them to plan. You can sell cheap things you get from storage units in your shop. It wasn't exciting, but it helped them get ahead and paid the bills. They opened a second store in Long Beach in March 2013 because the first one did so well. It was so big that they had a party with food, music, and fans. Shopping isn't easy, though. The Long Beach store had a hard time and shut down in 2014. Out of the blue, the Orange store closed around 2016. The shops were still important. These things showed that Brandi and Jared were ready to take risks, and that risk got the attention of people who make TV shows. Those shops and the couple who ran them helped them get on Storage Wars. Their thrift shops were more than just businesses. They were places to send things. It didn't take Brandi Passante and Jared Schultz long to make things interesting when Storage Wars first came out on December 1, 2010. Brandi was one of the youngest buyers on the show. She was only 30 years old. Also, she was one of the bravest. Those who had bid before were mostly older and more set in their ways. However, Brandi and Jared walked in without any fear or masks. They did not follow the rules. They did a lot of risky deals and learned a lot on the job, but they learned quickly, and they learned in front of a lot of people. Their name, the Young Guns, wasn't just a fun name. It was a perfect description of what they were. There's new blood that needs to show something. Along with the chaos of sales, they were also taking care of their two young children and running their Orange, California, thrift store from time to time. They were likable because they were driven and under a lot of pressure. Not only were they trying to win bids, but they were also trying to make a living, which made people root for them. Brandi and Jared did more than just make the show more exciting. They changed the rules for who could do well in that world. Brandi stood out right away. She didn't act out for the cameras. She did nothing. You got what you saw. She rolls her eyes and looks at Jared with anger. When a risky bet paid off, she was happy. It wasn't all fake. Brandi was honest and people noticed. Other group members seemed over the top or theatrical at times. Being honest made her likable right away. She wasn't acting like she knew a lot. She said she was wrong when she did. She could laugh herself, and she wasn't afraid to tell someone off when they were being careless, especially Jared. She earned trust over time by being honest. Fans liked her because she wasn't trying to look perfect all the time. She talked about how hard it is to balance fame, family, and work. That line about the show being a blessing and a curse stuck with her. It showed how powerful the attention could be, even when it let people in. She was still honest after the cameras stopped rolling. She kept posting real things from her life on social media. You only need Brandi and no screens or fake smiles. People stuck with her because she was honest like that. Their thrift shop changed a lot because of the attention from Storage Wars. Before the show, Now and Then was just a small used goods store that relied on people walking in. Things changed after the first season, though. People waited in line to get into the store, hoping to meet Brandi and Jared or buy something they had seen on TV. Business blew up. By 2013, they had opened a second store in Long Beach. It looked like a good idea at first. Both places were packed, and there was real buzz, but it didn't last forever. The Long Beach store had a hard time and had to close after only a year. The first store was open until early 2016 and then closed quietly as well. The shop's ups and downs were like the ups and downs of reality TV fame. Still, that short-lived store business taught us something important. Brandi was more than just a celeb. She was good at business, could negotiate, and had grit. Even after the shops closed, people still knew her as a sharp and tough person. That picture helped her move on to new things and stay important long after other things were no longer important. A&E chose to give Brandi an Jared their own show in 2014. The first episode of Brandi and Jared, Married to the Job, aired on August 12, 2004. The idea was easy to grasp. Show how things were after the sales. Fans saw them handle the stress of running their shops, raising their kids, and being in a relationship. It wasn't always pretty. On TV, they showed fights, stress, and all the messy parts of being a pair, but the honesty made it interesting. It wasn't pre-written filler, it seemed real. Even so, there were only 8 episodes of the show. The ratings weren't terrible, but they weren't good enough to keep going. The show added more to their story, even though it only ran for 1 season. They were interesting not only because of sales, but also because of how they dealt with everything life threw at them. At the same time, some shocking things were found. Brandi Passante and Jared Schultz bought an old, dusty storage unit for only $50. They got it open, though, and when they started digging, they found gold. There were lots of My Little Pony toys in the room, a huge number of them. Some were old, some were rare, and some were still sealed in the boxes they came in. With each figure they took out, it became clear that this wasn't just a kid's collection. For fans, this was gold. The expert did the math and found that it was worth $875. That meant that their $50 bet paid off almost 17 times over. The show aired in season 6 and became a fan favorite right away. Brandi was very happy. As usual, Jared wasn't sure, but the bronies who are adult My Little Pony fans went crazy. It wasn't just luck. It was a fun flip that will be remembered for a long time. Brandi didn't always smile when she found things, though. Her previous season, she bought a unit for $900 that seemed dull from the outside. I didn't feel that way for long. The locker took a scary turn as she and her helper went through the mess. It looked like there was a magic collection inside. Animal bones, a head with antlers, carved staffs, strange bags full of chicken bones, and a creepy little figure wearing a chicken hat were all there. Brandi looked like she was scared. She wouldn't sell any of it again. She thought the stuff was dangerous. Was it really voodoo? Was it art? People couldn't decide. One thing was clear, though. The show has shown some very creepy lockers in the past. Then Bry did one of his most dangerous things. She paid $250 for a unit that she had no idea what was inside. It was a big risk, but it made sense to take when she opened the door. There were screens, presses, dryers, and even an exposure unit in the locker that was used for professional screen printing. Everything you need to begin a printing company. The stuff was worth $50,000 after a professional looked it over. Brandi made a good amount of money, and the find showed how unexpectedly useful and valuable these storage units could be. It wasn't just about selling it again, it was about what could happen. She did it again in 2014. She paid $1,250 for another locker that looked like it was empty. Things got interesting as they talked about the call, which Jared wasn't sure about at first. Paintings, wall decorations, and personal items were buried under piles of old stuff. The big prize was a paint spray system for professionals worth more than $3,000, which they found next. The locker was worth $3,500 when all the costs were added up, to warn us that hidden treasure doesn't always look bright at first. Sometimes only someone with Bry's eye can see it. But the early win that changed everything was the best. Brandi and Jared bought a locker for $1,700 that no one else seemed to want. They were shocked when they opened it. It was full of old toys, action figures, and rare items that were all in great shape. The collection was huge, and the quality was the best I've ever seen. The total value was $12,800 after everything was checked out. It turned out to be one of the biggest wins in the history of Storage Wars. It was a big change in the story of Storage Wars in December 2012. In a shocking case, David Hester, one of the show's most recognizable faces, said that there was a web of lies going on behind the scenes. He wasn't just the person who yelled "Yope" during bidding wars. He was now the one who said the whole show was a fake. His claim says that the producers didn't leave anything to chance. They were putting plants in storage boxes to fill them up. Things like a BMW Mini or a stack of newspapers with death notices for Elvis Presley were used. To make the show more exciting and get more viewers, Chester didn't say anything. Right away, he went to Los Angeles Superior Court and asked for more than $750,000 in damages. His story was that he was fired for speaking out and that the production team had broken their contract and broken business rules. He even said it's possible that the producers broke federal broadcasting laws from the 1934 Communications Act, which says that events can't be fixed. Even though A&E had to say something in public, the damage had already been done. People started to wonder if any of their favorite locker reveals had ever been real. The proof then came along and it was tough to ignore. There were a lot of emails, papers, and even reimbursement checks that proved the locker planting wasn't just a rumor. Some people who worked on the set said that directors put things in the lockers without permission, especially during the first season. This happened in plain sight of the cast and crew at times. It was frighteningly clear how to do it. People in the cast would bring their own cool things. They would be hidden in the lockers by the producers. As the movie was being made, the cast would find them. After some time, they would send an invoice and get paid for the hire. Some receipts even matched the exact things that showed up in the big reveal scenes of the show. This wasn't messy. It was planned out. It was written down. Reality TV would go to terrible lengths to make a hit. As this show showed, even Brandi Passante, who has a lot of fans, got involved in the trouble. Brandi had a loyal following with her partner Jared Schulz. She was known for her quick wit and surprising findings. They had found some really strange things together, boxes of old toys and old teeth. But not every find was a fluke. More people who knew what was going on showed that Brandi and Jared weren't just bystanders. They had sometimes given their own things to plant and were later paid back for it. They were said to have backed the practice in production meetings. It became almost impossible to tell the difference between real finds and fake treasures, whether they were given things by producers or brought their own. This meant that if an item had a story that seemed too good to be true or appeared at just the right time, it was probably there on purpose. All of this did not happen in a vacuum. Behind the scenes, there was a lot of stress. A lot of the time, real storage sales are dull. A lot of rooms are full of trash. We have old clothes, broken furniture, and work to do. That's not good TV. It is said that directors told the actors to play over-the-top versions of themselves. To fix that, some were told to say certain things. Others were forced to fight in front of a camera. Editors would sometimes put together clips from different conversations to make up arguments or dramatic responses that didn't happen. This type of trick, called a Frankenbite, made it hard to tell the difference between real feelings and TV magic. It paid pretty well, too. People who worked on the show were getting around $15,000 to $25,000 per episode at its peak. It looked like a good idea to play along with that kind of money. For almost 20 years, Brandi Passante and Jared Schulz were together. They raised their kids, ran a business, and gained fans as the show's young stars. But after shooting season 12 in 2018, they broke up in a quiet way. Since they never got married, there was no official paper trail that could be seen. No one outside their group knew anything about it. Almost 2 years, Brandi kept posting on social media, but Jared was showing up less and less in her pictures. Next, another man started to show up. It was talked about a lot, but Brandi finally revealed it in a casual Facebook live interview in June 2020. They didn't say much even then. They kept shooting and didn't say much on set. They pretended like nothing happened. It wasn't the kind of secret that would last long on reality TV. Still, they were able to pull it off. Fans looked back at old episodes for hints after they finally found out. How did no one notice? In April 2021, everything changed. Season 13 of Storage Wars came out after a 2-year breakup. The split became a part of the show. Jared and Brandi were no longer together. They were competitors who freely bid against each other and called each other names. Brandi told the camera that he was a fool. It was a joke that Jared was bidding just to make her mad. Not only could you see the stress, it felt bad too. Brandi later said that it wasn't easy to film those scenes, but she did it for the show. That season not only showed that they broke up, it blew it up. Fans were getting used to this new situation when Another shock hit when Brandi said Jared pushed her at a bar in May 2021. He was charged with misdemeanor domestic violence attack. It was more than just a messy split. Because of the law, everything felt deeper, heavier, and much more real than anything else the show had ever shown. After everything, Bry's life changed a lot. She got to keep their 2 kids, Peyton and Cameron, all by herself, and the way wasn't easy. Peyton was born without hearing and with a split palate. Cameron had a kidney mass scare. Brandi had been mostly in charge of parenting even before they broke up. She had to do everything now. In jest, she said she was the main carer and that she no longer had the scary dad voice to back her up. She didn't stop, though. She kept going to work, taking care of her kids and showing up. She shared happy times with them on social media, like Cameron's 21st birthday party in May 2024. People who knew her thought she was strong, steady, and real. While this was going on, Jared ran a bar in Lake Forest and stayed out of sight most of the time. After being married, Bri became a single mother. It wasn't easy, but it was the most important time in her life. She was no longer just one of 2 people. She was her own person and stood by herself. That's when she told him something even worse. She said she didn't have a name for years. The show was everything, how things were going and what she was supposed to do. It was Brandi and Jared, not just Brandi, that changed after the split. She began to understand who she really was. She said it was a time to start over. Brandi Passante didn't just go on with her life after she broke up with Jared Schultz. She changed her mind in a very public way. In 2019, she joined forces with Women's Own Worth, a group that helps victims of domestic abuse. When they held Wapalua every year, Brandi did more than just show up. As the master of ceremonies, she helped raise $100,000 in one night. It wasn't about getting attention for her. Brandi had been through problems at home herself, which made her work more personal. Then there was the fight in the bar. Brandi was at an Orange County bar in April 2021. Jared showed up. People who saw it said Brandi told him to leave. He said no. Things became tense. He is said to have hit her twice and yelled at her and her friends. The police were called, but Jared had already left. He later said he didn't touch her. He was still charged with misdemeanor domestic abuse battery by the district attorney. Fans who had watched them fall in love on TV were shocked. At first, the split seemed sad, but now it seemed like there was something much worse going on behind the scenes. The event broke down any illusions that their breakup had been friendly or easy. In 2023, people learned about her private life too. At that point, she told him about her new friendship with Clifford Beaver. He sells homes and runs a bar in Lake Forest, California, called Our Place Bar and Grill. Following almost 20 years with Jared, this new part came as a surprise to fans, and the way Brandi and Clifford talked to each other, especially on Instagram, was really nice. They shared birthday wishes, family photos, and video from behind the scenes at Clifford's bar. Clifford shared a birthday video for Brandi in May 2024. It included clips of them talking, traveling, and mixing their families. These 2 people looked truly happy together. Both of them had kids from previous relationships. Some people noticed. People who liked Brandi said she looked more relaxed and happy than the tense situation they had seen before. Going out in public with Clifford wasn't just for love. It was about getting her peace back. After that, the podcast news came. Brandi announced in June 2025 that she and Brandi Passante were going to start a reality show. This wasn't some mild talk about famous people. She said she would be completely honest and tell the real stories behind the scenes of reality TV. She said she would talk about things that fans never see that happen behind the scenes. Along with the picture, she wrote, "See, it's about to get real." And people took her seriously. After all, Brandi was in over 260 episodes of Storage Wars and a spin-off. She also had to deal with the highs and lows of fame, sadness, and raising kids in the public eye. The podcast's first episode would be available on all major sites, such as YouTube. It became one of the most anticipated releases in its field very quickly thanks to her blunt writing style and brave subjects. Fans thought they knew what to expect, but Brandi pulled another surprise out of the bag. She shared pictures from inside a recording studio in February 2025. The title wasn't very long. She came back, watch out, there was a lot of talk about that post. What did this have to do with the podcast? Or was she working on something else, like music, voice work, or even a new show? The mystery made things even more exciting. These days, famous plans often get out before they're even made official, but Brandi kept everything under wraps. Fans looked very closely at the studio gear and lights, trying to figure out what it all meant. There was one thing that was clear: no one knew for sure. Brandi was making a new version of herself, not as the queen of storage auctions, but as a creative force making something brand new. She is more than safe with her money. It is thought that she will be worth about $2 million in 2025. It was said that she made $15 per show on Storage Wars, which is a big chunk of that. With more than 260 shows, that's almost $4 million in gross earnings, and that's not counting the money she makes from Brandi and Jared. Married to her job, her thrift store business, and different lines of goods. She and Jared didn't have much to begin with. They had the least amount of money and were the youngest buyers on the show. Brandi was smart. Though every chance she got, she turned into something bigger. They even opened a second thrift store when they were at the height of their success. Those shops closed down in the end, but Brandi didn't stop. As time went on, she expanded into media, products, and new business ideas. Her story shows that fame from reality TV doesn't have to end quickly. It can grow into a lasting power if you think about it the right way.